Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the open house for Scholé Academy. We are so excited to have you join us this evening. If you are looking to meet some of our teachers tonight, hear from one of our parents, then you're in the right place. So we're going to officially get started here in just a moment. We have over 250 families that have registered tonight. So I'm going to give everyone some time to get in from the wait room. And I know some of you will be joining us probably throughout the hour. The event is recorded. So if you have to leave early, we will provide you with a recording. Everyone gets a recording if you've registered. It'll be available also on our events page. We'll post it later in our e-newsletter. So there are lots of opportunities later to find a recording. And then, of course, if you're watching this recording later, we're glad that you found a time to sit down and watch the recording. So we are just about to open registration for the 2023-24 academic year. There's so much that we're excited about sharing with you tonight. And I would say the highlight of this evening is that we will have Q&A towards the second half, where we really just want you to hear from our instructors, department chairs, lead teachers, and like I said, one of our Scholé Academy families. There are a couple ways that you can communicate with us through the evening. There's a Q&A box where you can put in questions and we'll get to them towards the second half. And then you have a chat box as well. If you are able to use your chat box, we always like to see where you are joining us from. So you can just kind of say hello, and our instructors and panelists will greet you there, and you can let us know where you're from. If you are joining us because you have some students in your family that are new to Scholé, or maybe your entire family is new to Scholé, we are very excited to have you. So I love seeing where everyone is coming in from. Tennessee and Ohio and Alaska, and Louisiana, and the list just keeps growing. So welcome. Well, let me go ahead and get started. We're going to talk through a series of events tonight, but or I should say details tonight. But I do want to share a slide that gives you kind of an overview so you know what to expect, and also to share with you some important names. As I said, I'm Joanne Shinstock, the director and principal of Scholé Academy. We will also hear from Allison Haley, who's the academic and technology specialist, our culture and events coordinator, Christy Stoddard, the principal of St. Raphael School and Tutoring Center and Center for Students with Learning Difference manager, Presbytera Maria Koulianos. And then on our panelists, or on our panel, we have department chairs from math, Latin, writing, humanities. We have a lead instructor in the lower school Latin department with us. And then we have Mrs. Lori Chambers, a Scholé Academy parent who is joining us. And we also have our Scholé Academy customer service and communications representative, Nancy Parcells. So anytime you call the office, you're either probably connecting with Nancy or sometimes myself. But Nancy is the face of the office, if you will. If you think of when you enter a school, Nancy's going to be that first point of contact. So this is who you're going to hear tonight from. And with that, I'm going to go ahead and get started. So if you're thinking about Scholé Academy as an option for your family, there are some things that we want you to know about our school that make us different from other classical schools, certainly other online classical Christian schools. But to start with, we are classical, which means that our courses seek to discover and study deeply truth, goodness, and beauty, and specifically studying the 7 liberal arts and studying the great books. We also talk about restful learning, and that's a term that you can hear many different kinds of definitions, but what we mean by restful is meaningful, deep engagement. And then we're ecumenical. So you'll learn about our 3 houses of studies. These are schools within a school, and St. Raphael School we acquired in 2018. They are, it is the largest school. And we then started Canterbury House of Studies in 2021, and then just this year started the Aquinas House of Studies as of fall 2022. So we have 3 houses, St. Raphael School in the Orthodox tradition, Canterbury in the Anglican tradition, and Aquinas House of Studies in the Catholic tradition. And this idea of the 3 houses comes from Mere Christianity, C.S. Lewis, the idea that you enter into the Great Hall, and at Scholé Academy, you're entering the Great Hall when you're on the all course page, and you can see all of our course offerings, grammar, literature, history, Spanish, Latin, math, science, art, but that's our Great Hall. And then we invite you to move off of the Great Hall into one of our houses of studies. Each house has instructors who are practicing and devout in that specific Christian tradition, but each house is open to all families, whether you are specifically attending a church in that particular Christian tradition or not. We welcome all families into any of the courses that we offer in the Great Hall and also one of our houses of studies. Some really fabulous indicators of our growth. So Scholé Academy started in 2014 as an educational service line within Classical Academic Press, and we started with 2 classes and 8 students. So this year we have grown as a community, including the houses, over 30%. So we serve over 2,000 students. That's over 1,200 unique families. We serve families all within the 50 states and abroad. And last summer, we served over 400 students in our summer programs. And so we anticipate, or almost 400 students. This coming summer, we anticipate serving certainly well over 400 in our summer program. So we're just really excited about the growth that we've seen. And the faces that you see right here, this is the reason why we've grown. Our teachers are unique in terms of how they teach. Our classes are relational, it's engaging, we don't use a chat box. Classes are small, we cap our classes at 15. We require our students to keep their videos on. Students see each other, instructors see their students, everyone really is experiencing as close as you can to a brick and mortar classroom experience, because there isn't anything that's asynchronous about our class offerings. Teaching and learning is conversational, it's collaborative, it's hands-on. And our faculty consists of just talented classical educators. We have published authors, we have curriculum writers, we have playwrights, we have artists, we have experts in their fields with masters and doctorates. And within that pool, many of these teachers are homeschooling parents. So they are right there with you. They understand the rhythm and life of a homeschooling family. And just earlier, I was listening to a talk Dr. Perrin was giving on friendship, and he referenced specifically what I think we do really well in our community is there's that faculty of friendship. So there is that love that we have between colleagues, but there also is that love that comes into the classroom between the instructor and the parent, the instructor and the student. So again, that relational piece is very unique to Scholé Academy and something that we hold very important. And you'll see that in our student parent handbook when we talk about our Matthew 18 principle and the partnership that we seek to have between families and the teacher. So with that, I'm going to pass it to Allison Haley for family partnership.
All right, thanks, Joanne. So as Joanne mentioned, we are a faculty of friends that is here to support your family on their classical Christian homeschooling journey. And as a partner in that, we really view the instructor's relationship as a guest in your home. And we have things like our orientation session where parents come with their student to get acclimated to the teacher and to the classroom environment. And from that very beginning of the relationship, we want to set it up that we are a guest in your home. So we take that partnership very seriously, and we have several things that I'm going to talk about here in a second, the tools for that partnership that help us to make that work really, really well. So the first thing I want to show you is kind of how to join our community. So perhaps you already know, but preview week did start yesterday. And so our courses are available to begin to browse. Registration for new families won't open actually until Monday, but I'm going to slide my screen over here in just a second and show you where to start looking at courses. So if you haven't already done so, I would invite you to go to our website and then go to academics, and all courses is the best way to get the big picture view of what we offer, specifically in the Great Hall. And then we're going to talk about the houses of studies as well. So there's kind of 4 ways to look at courses. This all course page is one. And on this page, we have our lower school, which is grades K through 6. Our middle school, which is grades 6 through 9, and then our upper school, which straddles 9th grade. You know, you have those kind of overlapping years. 9 through 12 would be the upper school. And we do have a bell schedule that you can see that's specific to each level of our school, so that classes run on that schedule and don't overlap. We have a little break between classes and things like that. So as you're looking at scheduling classes for next year, or considering your options, those are some important things to know as you're looking. I'm going to show you a couple of other ways to look at courses, though. So perhaps you're looking for let's say a math course in particular, and you want to see all the math courses from beginning to end, because we know that there's a lot of wisdom in looking at a curriculum from the top down, and then thinking about where your student might be in that process to kind of see where the trajectory is going. So back on our all courses page at the very bottom, we have these buttons, and you can go to by subject. And a lot of people miss this, but you can look at any of our courses by subject here. And if I click one of the tiles, you can just kind of enter into that department, and you can see all of the courses listed. If I were to click these tiles, it would open up the course pages and all of the section offerings and all of the instructor bios, all the syllabi specific to those courses. So I would invite you, as you're looking and planning, to think about the courses on a course level as well. And kind of likewise, one other way to view our courses is by grade. So this just helps you zoom in on that lower school, middle school, upper school view. And so here we can enter into each of the parts of the school this way. So let's just say we were looking for a middle grades class. Perhaps you have a 7th grader. I have a 7th grader, they're lovely. And so you can kind of focus in on courses that would be relevant to that student. So that view might also be very helpful. As you're looking, I would encourage you to keep an eye out for our new courses. They're featured here with the asterisk new to kind of draw your attention to them and help you know how our offerings are changing this year with certain courses. Sometimes they're brand new offering, and sometimes they're just the next course in the sequence. Like you can see, we have French for Children B this year, and we had French for Children A last year. So we're offering the next course in that sequence for students. And likewise, we have French 2 on the upper school page. So we have the all courses page by subject, by grade level. And the last way I'm going to show you is to browse courses by the houses of studies. So up here in our top navigation, you can see this drop down for houses of studies. And you can, as Joanne said, come off the Great Hall into one of those houses and spend some time looking at what we're offering there. That might be specific to your tradition. We do have a lot of new courses in the houses this year, in Canterbury, as well as the Aquinas House, and St. Raphael School is coming very, very soon. And so we have new courses, and those courses will be launched and available for preview at the end of April. Okay, so that's the houses of studies. Once you're ready to enroll in a course, let's say that it's next Monday and you are ready to sign up for a course, you'll just select that course. Up here at the top, now you can see it says enrollment opening soon. There will be an enroll now button sitting right beside each section. So if you wanted to enroll in section 2, you would click the enroll now button just right beside that. And then once that section's full, you'll see a wait list button. That wait list button is really, it's helpful to you and it's helpful to us to use. It lets us know if we have a lot of folks wanting a specific time, and perhaps we can open another section at that time. And also, the earlier you get on the wait list, it lets us kind of, as students move around and shuffle when schedules change, it lets us get you in there as soon as possible. So we recommend that you just register for another section that might also work. If your preferred time's not available, then maybe we can slide you in as folks shuffle around in the coming months before school starts. Okay, so the last thing I want to mention about enrollment is that if you do not see a section at a time that will work for you, let's say that you want to take this Latin 2 course, but none of these offerings will work for you at all. We would love to see you go over to our tutoring center, and I know Presbyter Maria Kulianos is going to spend some time with you here in a second telling you more about that, but you can get any of our courses on private course instruction basis at a time that works for you. So we want to serve you and accommodate you in that way, and just keep that in mind. I know a lot of our families maybe don't realize that that's an option if the sections listed don't work for them. Okay, and the next thing we're going to talk about is related to our handbook. So as I mentioned, we have a partnership, and that partnership needs some clear boundaries and needs some guidelines to help things flow really well. And over time, we have put together a student parent handbook. We're obviously not going to read it all together, but if you look at our top navigation, you can select it here at Student Parent Handbook. We have it viewable, we have a printable version. We want it to be accessible to you. I'm just going to point out a couple of parts to it that you can look at more closely after we meet. So the first one is in sections 2 and 3, and those are our placement guidelines. The placement process is specific to each department. So the math department, the Latin department, the writing and rhetoric department, they have some timelines and placement processes that help you approach learning in the most restful way by an accurate placement. And we take that really seriously. So if a student's placed in maybe a lower than anticipated course, that's not to be viewed as a bad thing. That is a way to help you to enter the course and approach it in a restful way. And we also offer some ways to kind of bridge that gap. So let's say you enter the placement process in the spring. We have a lot of time before fall. So there are sometimes other options that we can look at as well. So I would encourage you to think about the placement process in a really positive way, that it helps your student to approach it restfully. So here we are, we're in section 3, school policies. Below our statement of faith is where the placement process sort of starts to be spelled out. So course selections, we kind of define those school levels to help you know where your child might fall by age. And then in section 3, we talk about the placement evaluation and how that's going to happen. You're going to meet with the instructor perhaps and maybe send in a work sample or two. The next section I'm going to talk about is tuition and withdrawal. So let's say you make a course selection on Monday and you enroll in a course, but then something happens and you need to change your mind. You are welcome to, we can work with you to change that arrangement between now and May 1st with a lot of flexibility. And then after May 1st, the refund policy does change. So I would encourage you to look at section 5, where we talk about withdrawing from a class and how we can switch between sections and what that looks like. So the timeline on that is really between now and May 1st. and then August 1st is another important date to keep in mind on that timeline. So May 1st, August 1st, and then registration obviously opens this Monday. Okay, the last section I'm going to mention is section 7. So excuse the scrolling, but as Joanne mentioned, we are relational and engaging in our instruction. And in order to make that happen, students have to be live and in class. So we do have a cameras on policy that is required for students to be in attendance. So they will be visible to their peers. They'll mute and unmute as they're speaking. We use breakout rooms and lots of ways to get your student interacting with the instructor and with their peers. And because of that, it's not a passive arrangement. And we have an attendance policy that's kind of based on the number of times your class meets. So those specifics are detailed here in the attendance policy section. And I would invite you to look more closely at that as you're looking at courses and thinking about the number of days they meet per week. Okay. And then the last thing that I'm going to share is learning in action. So what does this all look like? So we do use a learning management system here at Scholé Academy, and we use Canvas. And within Canvas, we've invested a lot in making this a really smooth process for your student from course to course and instructor to instructor. And to that end, we have a custom designed interface that we have over the years gathered ways to structure the courses that seem to work best for our students. And so we have an interface that is built just for our school to meet those needs. So students will join classes right from a Zoom button that's handy and on the front page of their course. We have a getting started module to walk you through the process from the very beginning. Student assignments and learning outcomes are mapped out in the learning modules. Assignments, resources, announcements, and grades keep the student kind of in sync with the instructor. And for parents, each student will have their own account, but for parents, we offer a parent observer account, so you can shadow your student. You can know exactly what they're learning and keep an eye on things. The student to instructor communication all happens right through Canvas, and you can see their messages here, and you can see how they're chatting. We don't encourage instructors to email students outside of Canvas. We want all of that communication to be within the school and closely monitored and accessible to you as their parent as well. Okay, and the last thing that I'm going to share about just kind of brings us full circle back to our instructors. And as Joanne mentioned, we have right around 100 instructors. And this faculty of friends is committed to growing in their craft. We do lots of voluntary continuing education. We want to continue to learn and grow just as we are expecting our students to do, because these individuals, they're classical through and through, and they hold this pedagogy in deep esteem, and they want to be the best at what they're doing for you and your students. So with that, I'm going to pass it over to Christy Stoddard, our Culture and Events Coordinator, and she's going to tell you about our community.
Thank you so much, Allison. Chrissy's going to come in a little bit later. Our Tutoring Center and Center for Learning Differences is a service that we provide to our Scholé Academy community. Scholé Academy offers personalized tutors to help students find confidence and delight in their classical studies. Choose from private tutoring or supplemental. Private course instruction provides personalized instruction through an entire course of study. And supplemental tutoring provides coaching support for students' coursework. In addition, these are live Zoom video conference sessions with your tutor. Our Center for Learning Differences is also available for our families. Let me pull up the slides here. There we go. The services offered through our Center for Students with Learning Differences are intended to support students who have been diagnosed with specific learning disorders, such as dyslexia, dysgraphia, and dyscalculia. We have Heather Myers, who is here on the panel, Heather McCoy, who's here on the panel, who can speak directly to this for our Center for Students with Learning Differences. We are here to help and augment what your student is already doing. So regardless of what may be the case, if you want private course instruction, or if you just want supplemental tutoring to help with a class, even if you're not taking Scholé Academy classes, you can still come to our tutoring center and get services. And we do have many families that do that. What we do is we set you up with a tutor that we think will be a good match. You'll meet with that tutor. And then from that point on, it's a relationship, as Allison has mentioned. We make sure that we are trying to do our best for the student and of course for our families. So Scholé's Tutoring Center and Center for Students with Learning Differences is here to help. And we have a website where you all can actually go. And in that website, and I'm going to pull that up right now, you are able to get further information about our tutoring center and what it all entails. So this comes from Academics Tutoring Center. And then it goes down and explains the difference between supplemental and private course instruction. If you're interested, of course, you click Learn More, and then this will take you to this page. And as you can see, we offer a variety of private course instruction and supplemental tutoring in all of the various disciplines. Our instructors, as Joanne said at the top of the hour, are top of their fields, doctorates, masters on many cases, and they're here to help. And so if you are interested, you go down to the very bottom here where it says submit request for tutoring, and that will take you to another page that will populate and notify us at the tutoring center. Along with this, as I mentioned earlier, we have a Center for Learning Differences, and this is something that, of course, is near and dear to my heart, and it has the opportunity to help students that have those specific learning differences that we can help them. So the specific learning disorders that we're able to help, and of course, work alongside families in order to bring about success for our students. With that, are we going to Christy?
Yeah,
All
we're
right,
gonna go to the Q&A now.
excellent.
Thank you so much, Presbytera. So with that, I want to jump into our panelists, and moms and dads, as you are thinking about your questions. I know some of you have already put them in the chat box and also the Q&A. Now is the time that we will start to address your questions. But what I'd like to do is just start with our panelists, and I'm just looking at the first person I see there. So Amy Morgan, with the Department Chair of Writing and Rhetoric, if you want to introduce yourself and tell us something about certainly what you're teaching, but also what's exciting for your department this coming year.
Sure, thanks. Yeah, so I'm Amy Morgan, Department Chair of Writing and Rhetoric, and I have taught Writing and Rhetoric 3, 4, 5, and in this coming year, I'll be teaching Writing and Rhetoric 6, and that is what I'm kind of excited about because it is our first year at Scholé Academy to offer a Writing and Rhetoric 6 course. But I'd love to just take a moment to just tell you a little bit about the Writing and Rhetoric program overall, and to give you a little tidbits about how students grow in the Writing and Rhetoric program. So I love how it integrates memorization through the program of poetry and quotations that touch on major themes like justice and truth and perseverance. Students have a chance to integrate the grammar that they've learned in their grammar courses, which is separate from Writing and Rhetoric, but they learn how to integrate grammar into their writing through their editing and proofreading, through creating sentence variety that makes their writing more interesting for their audiences. One thing I've always loved, even when I was homeschooling my own children with some of this material, is how the Writing and Rhetoric program uses beautiful texts for the students to read, talk about, and those texts are the content about which the students write, whether it's fables and other stories or excerpts from biographies, speeches, drama, across time and space and culture. And some of the voices that we get to read about are also women's voices and voices of color, among others that are represented in the literature. So I appreciate that a lot. So with such a variety of texts in these 6 years of Writing and Rhetoric, you can just easily imagine how much students grow. They grow from sentence dictation and copy work and summarizing some stories to augmenting stories with dialogue and description, writing guided essays from 4 paragraphs in length to multiple pages in length. Students grow to research and write and present arguments and speeches, including literary analysis and philosophical definition in books 7 through 10. And in this coming year, it's the first time we've had our Writing and Rhetoric 6 class using book 11. And I'm so thrilled that students will feel like they've reached a pinnacle when they research and write and memorize and present speeches from the 3 branches of rhetoric, the judicial, ceremonial, and political. So you can see that students just have a wide journey that you can help them pick the portion of the journey that they're ready to join, and they can jump on board and follow through as they're ready.
Thank you, Amy. Another popular area is math, so I'd want to introduce Dr. Riley, Francel Riley. Welcome. If you'd like to introduce yourself and tell us about what's exciting for the math department this coming year.
Okay, so I'm Dr. Riley. I teach pre-algebra, algebra, and next year algebra 2. This year I taught geometry. The next year I'll be teaching algebra 2. So that's one thing that's exciting. Algebra 2 is actually my favorite class in high school. So it was my favorite math class, and now I get to teach it. I think in the math department, we started grade 5, go through pre-calculus. And so students can be with us almost their entire time until they graduate from high school. So that's one thing that's exciting. I've had some students for 3 or 4 or 5 years now. The same student just taking, class after class with me. And not just that student, multiple students. So our classes become like a little family, where we get to know each other. The students get to know each other. We're all just one family. But in our math classes, we go beyond the textbook. That's one thing that excites me about all of our classes. We don't just teach math as a tool, we teach it as a subject. So students will get to learn some of the history of mathematics. We also teach it as a way to understand God's creation. It was Galileo who said that mathematics was the language that God wrote the universe. And so in algebra, no, it's in pre-algebra, the students listen to crickets. As they listen to crickets, that becomes data. And as they make data, that becomes a graph. And that graph becomes an equation. And then you can use that equation to predict. So we really teach that mathematics is more than just a tool. It's a way to understand the universe around us. Another thing that excites me in mathematics is at the beginning of every class at Scholé, scripture is shared. In mathematics, we really focus on growth mindset, helping the students have a growth mindset, because math can be a challenging subject. So I remember this week, we were talking about resilience in pre-algebra, and we had just studied solving equations for a good month. And I thank the kids for being resilient, because I know learning to solve equations, especially complex equations, can be a challenge. And the kids always, talk back to me. One said, yeah, I had a dream that the ghost from Ghostbusters was going to get me if I didn't solve this equation correctly. So I said, well, you were resilient. I know you did it, right? He was like, no, I couldn't think. So I just woke up. I said, well, fear will do that to you. We'll be talking about fear next. And we actually are talking about courage and fear. But those are the things that excite me about the math department.
Thank you, Dr. Riley. And then the third most popular area certainly is Latin. So with that, I want to introduce Eddie Kotinski, our Latin department chair. And also we have Amanda Reeves, our lead lower school Latin instructor. So Eddie, would you like to talk about the Latin program and what parents can expect to find?
Sure. Yeah. So I teach the upper school, not all of the upper school Latin courses, but a lot of upper school Latin courses. And so I'll leave the lower school to Amanda since she's in charge of that. But yeah, I teach Latin basically through all the way through from, except I skipped Latin 4. So 1, 2, 3, 5, or 1, 2, 3 advanced, and Danae Edsel has been teaching 4, and she teaches a bunch of other classes as well. I also teach, I'm pretty excited that we started our Greek program at Scholé this year, and we're going to offer Greek 2 this coming year, so that's pretty exciting. So there's a lot going on. We approach things, as Dr. Riley said, it's very sort of fully orbed, I guess you'd say. We're learning Latin, of course. We're trying to connect it to history, to language and linguistics in general. And of course, the question that maybe students might have is, how can you love God and your neighbor while you're learning Latin? And so we talk about that as well. What does it mean to do that? But I'll not give you that answer, because then you won't send your kids. So anyway, but anyway, so yeah, students, Dr. Riley was talking about it being sort of family-like, and it's actually kind of amazing the relationships some of the kids have formed with one another as a class. I was kind of blown away after Latin 3 how tight-knit the students had been after 3 years, and how they were all going off in their different directions, some of them continuing in Latin, some of them in different places, but they really were sharing some of the fun things that they had done behind my back in class, like all the cool things that they had discovered, or the relationships they'd formed and things like that. And it was just a pleasure to discover what kind of relationships they can have inside of an online setting. So I was just, I thought that would be a good thing to share with everybody else.
Thank you, Eddie. Just really quickly, one of the questions that came through that I thought was important for you to address was
Yeah.
the students in the national Latin exam.
Yes.
What did you want to say about that?
So we don't administer the national Latin exam, but I have had questions throughout the years asking, where, if we take it, should we take it? And if we do take it, what level should we have? So I'm happy to answer those questions. Like I said, we don't administer it, but it's pretty easy for me to be able to tell you, your students in this level, and this is the appropriate material that they've covered that can go for the national Latin exam, and I can point you to their syllabus so you can think through whether that's really where you want to go with it, which particular level seems best if you want to kind of decide between two, and you can sign up there. So
thank you, Eddie. And Amanda, I definitely wanted to have you jump on and tell us about the lower school program and the work that you do to support our teachers in the Latin for Children.
Yeah, I'd be happy to. So this coming year will be, I think, my 5th year at Scholé Academy, working with lower school Latin primarily. So I teach Latin for Children A, B, and C, and then I also get to see the students through Latin 1 to kind of oversee their transition into the upper school courses. And I'm just excited about all of the growth that we're seeing as a department in terms of the growth of the faculty, the growth of the families that we're serving, because at the end of the day, the growth that we're seeing in the department is representing the love that our students are developing for the language. I just think it's absolutely magical seeing students who come into, especially our youngest classes, sometimes dragging their feet a little bit. Very few 8-year-olds are stampeding to take Latin. But for whatever reasons they're taking it, whether it's with parent encouragement or whether they're interested in other languages, what we routinely see coming out of our classes are students who are enchanted by the language, who are eager to continue their studies, who are seeing their studies reflected in other things. I love hearing about students who are enrolled in a well-ordered language class or writing and rhetoric class, who are learning some of the similar sorts of concepts that we're talking about in our classes in their other classes, which I think really speaks to the interdisciplinary approach that you're going to see at Scholé Academy. But it's just a joy to see students who are developing a love of the Lord, a love of their peers, and a love of the language as they go along.
Thank you so much, Amanda. And then with that growth this year, we have welcomed Phaedra Shaltanis into the role of department chair for humanities offerings. Phaedra certainly has been with us for several years, but we're so excited that now she is sitting in the seat of department chair. So with that, Phaedra, tell us about the humanities program and what parents can come to find this year.
Absolutely. And I'll try to keep this brief because everyone has spoken so well about Scholé Academy. So I don't have too much to add, except that the humanities department is centered on literature and history, the events that have formed culture and have really given us the worldview we have. We look at all the literature and history through our scriptural worldview. And I love to remember the verse Colossians 1:17, that Christ is before all things and in him all things hold together. Whether it's math or Latin or writing and rhetoric or Russian or Greek or any number of courses, everything holds together in Christ. And that is the most beautiful part of Scholé Academy, in my opinion. I have found over 22 years of teaching, Scholé has been just the most tremendous blessing for me in terms of how students can be honest and forthright in this very sweet and intimate setting that online, which is just tremendous. So what do we have for you? We have all kinds of offerings starting in the lower school and moving all the way up to grade 12. And you can focus on ancient history, American history, or medieval, Renaissance, Reformation. Those are our 3 main categories, but we have some other offerings next year, such as exploring virtue through C.S. Lewis for middle school, and fantasy literature with, of course, the Christian worldview, which will be examining Lewis and Tolkien and George MacDonald. So the humanities is a great way to foster and build those close relationships that we've heard about tonight. And I'll tell you, it is true. Many of these students I've known for years now go to college together, and they are developing and furthering their relationships. And it is absolutely tremendous. So I will leave it at that, and I'm open for questions if I can help in any way.
Thank you so much, Phaedra. I do want to pass it to Heather McCoy in our Center for Students with Learning Differences. Heather, if you could just introduce yourself and maybe give a brief overview of some of the services you can provide our families, you and our other SNIs in our Center for Students with Learning Differences.
All right. Hello, I'm Heather McCoy. I am one of 3 special needs instructors with the Center for Students with Learning Differences. Our job is to basically come alongside parents and instructors to really help the students use their strengths and their gifts to overcome the hurdles that are caused by their learning differences. So like I said, there are 3 of us. We are all credentialed, trained, experienced, and have master's degrees. We value that collaborative and supportive relationship between the instructors and the families and the student. So that's really how we work, is just as a collaborative team. So some of the services that we provide, it's primarily with one-on-one tutoring, which is just like this format. But each session is specialized for the student's needs. So that's like my favorite part, is walking through that journey with the student and developing those strategies that are specific, not just for the student, but for the family dynamic, so that it works for whatever situation that student is learning in. But really that I always fall back on Psalm 139, where it says, "You are fearfully and wonderfully made." And students with learning differences don't always feel like they are fearfully and wonderfully made. And through this process, it's really amazing to see them to start realizing that, and that sense of relief and accomplishment that they feel when those strategies start to work and they start taking ownership of their education.
Thank you so much, Heather. I appreciate so much what you and the other special needs instructors do for our community. Well, I would like to pass it to our final panelist, Lori Chambers. Would you like to introduce yourself? I know I briefly said that you have been and you currently still are a Scholé Academy family, but we would really love just to hear from you in terms of what your experience has been with Scholé Academy, and maybe just something that you can share with prospective families tonight who are thinking about Scholé Academy classes.
Hi, yeah, I'm Lori Chambers. I have currently a 7th grader, 10th grader, and 11th grader at Scholé. We've been at Scholé for about 4 years and have been very happy, very pleased with the courses we've taken. We've mostly taken Latin, math, and writing and rhetoric, and have found them all to be very rigorous and just appropriate, I think, in the amount of work, not overwhelming, but not too easy. And my kids have been very well prepared for further classes that they've taken, and for other exams they've taken, they've done well on. And we have, I think, really just enjoyed the teachers the most at Scholé as people. It seems to me that the teachers that are hired at Scholé are just wonderful people who are virtuous and highly educated and passionate about what they do, which my kids really appreciate, having a teacher who enjoys what they're teaching and who maybe does it in their spare time, and who has a lot of other interests as well that they share with the kids. And I think my children have felt like they've gotten to know some of the teachers a little bit and enjoy that as well, and have connected with a lot of the students. And as we travel as a family, we will look someone up and plan to meet them as we're traveling, which has been really a blast. And so there's a lot I could say, but I don't know if you have any questions in particular.
Thank you, Lori. Yeah, we have, I've seen several questions come in, and our panelists and admin team is doing a great job of responding. Just as we're thinking about our families, and Lori was mentioning a little bit about our community, I want to pass it to Christy Stoddard, who can briefly touch on the unique things about our community and things that we do as a school together outside of class. Oh, Christy, I can't hear you. I don't know what happened.
Can you hear?
You're back. Perfect. Oh no, you're gone again.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
Okay, I think it was my headphones. Sorry about that. Thank you so much. We're so glad you are all here. As you are prayerfully considering the future education for your children, we want to show you guys what Scholé offers through our classical education. Augustine stated that an essential characteristic of education is to teach students to love that which is lovely, following after Plato's idea that affections and tastes must be cultivated. To that end, we are purposeful about creating a culture of goodness, beauty, and truth, which you've seen hopefully with some of the teachers as they've been able to present a little bit about what they do with your students. Within the sphere of culture and events, we pursue 3 main areas of intentional connection with and for our families. So I'm going to share my screen and just give you a very brief tour of our website. Thank you. Sorry about that. Okay, so we have in the first area is development of community. And so within this area, we have our teachers' blogs. We have the Scholé Academy blog, and then we have some Scholé group blogs and the Classical U blog. We also offer our student newspapers, the Scholé Chronicle and the St. Raphael School Journal. And we also have our debates, our clubs. We have Latin Club here, and the debate club is, I believe that's new. Vixie Friedman is leading that, and so there'll be more information on the debate club to come. Secondly, we offer equipping for our parents, essay parents, for our instructors, and the broader Christian classical education community through our Classical University. And you guys, when you come onto our website, I encourage you just to kind of look through all these tabs, and you can see some of the things that we have been talking about. And so we have our Classical U up here, which has teacher training, and within that, as well as the Parent U. We have our essay lecture halls, which are going to, let me take you over to events real quickly. And you can see our upcoming events. We have, this is tonight, obviously, and then we have down at the bottom, you can see event recordings of events that have happened in the past. And so this is where you can see some of our lecture halls, this was our most recent one with Heidi White. And then lastly, we have, we also have coffee with the principal. I forgot about that. And so again, we're going to have one coming up in March, but we have some more that have been recorded, so you can look at previous themes. And then lastly, we offer other events that don't really fit within the category specifically of those, like the college night panels for parents to hear from and talk to and ask questions of classical schools and classical programs. We have feast day events and other events that are really here to offer community for all of Scholé Academy and their families. So take some time to browse our website, and if you have any questions, you can email any of us and ask. And thank you again.
Thank you, Christy. So there's a lot of information to share, and you can tell we've been doing our best to kind of present everything, but it's hard to do in one evening. So perhaps not all of your questions are getting answered. I do want to invite you to keep sending those questions to support@scholeacademy.com. We are currently in our preview week for new families. So you will notice that you will see some course pages that will have coming soon information, whether it's a course description or a schedule. Just a little bit more about our instructors. They are contractors. So we do not put a course out until we have a contractor that's committed to a schedule. And so it does take time to launch over 200 classes. One of our classical principles is make haste slowly, festina lente. So this is not just true for our teachers in the classroom with their students as classical pedagogy, but it is certainly true for the admin team. We take our time. We're very deliberate and intentional about candidates that we seek interviews with. They conduct teaching samples for us. So we do our best to get as much as we can out there for preview week. And then we certainly continue to work diligently through preview week to make sure when enrollment opens that we have as much, if not everything, out there ready to go. But you will see, even during enrollment season, that we will add sections if possible. We will continue interviewing to meet the demands of enrollment. So if you're looking for something on the website and you just don't see it yet, please reach out to us at support@scholeacademy.com. Sometimes it's just a matter of finishing an interview process with a particular candidate, and we do have the course that you're seeking or the section that you're seeking. So as I said, we strive each year to meet the growing demand of our community. And we just want you to know that kind of behind the scenes, what goes on to make sure that what we put out there on the website is what's best and what's going to meet your needs. So you will see, certainly within the next, where are we, today's midweek into Monday, February 13th, you'll continue to see updates. I do just want to talk a little bit about the assessment process. Just to clarify, because I saw some questions come through. Families register for classes. It's a la carte. You can take one class, you can take, multiple classes, and then our instructors will confirm enrollment with a placement assessment. Not all classes require one, or not each student will require one, but we leave it up to our instructors to determine if a placement assessment is needed, and they will reach out to you and follow up with you. Our handbook is the best resource for all of these details. So please make sure you've taken the time to read through it and refer back to it. But we're here throughout the enrollment season to help you. I do hope we've answered as many questions as we possibly can. I'm gonna just pause for a moment because perhaps some of my panelists are seeing questions that haven't been answered, and I invite you to kind of unmute and respond to anything that's important, and then we'll wrap up here in just a minute or two.
Joanne, when we discussed placement and we talked about refunds and policies and stuff, did you mention anything about when students are told that they shouldn't place in the class they've signed up for, and whether students get a refund for that class?
Yeah, absolutely. There is in our student parent handbook, we give a pretty detailed response to the timelines of things in terms of what a student should do if they take an assessment and they need to transfer. We do have a very generous policy in terms of our first concern is for that student and trying to ensure that they're placed in the right class. I'm gonna get my screen here caught up. So when you're looking at that section 3, and I know this was something Allison had referenced earlier, you'll see, let me make my screen a little bit bigger, the specific details. When you're initially trying to make a course selection, we do ask you to look at the course description, the target grade range, minimum age requirements, scholarship skills, and these are tabs on the course page. You are the primary educator, you're the headmaster, the principal, the director of your homeschool, and so you know your student the best. If after reading through that material you have questions and you're still not sure about placement, look at our instructor page under About Us and email directly an instructor and ask questions through email. They're great. They'll reach back out to you. They'll respond to your questions. And then in making your enrollment decision, we will start placement assessments mid-May, and instructors will respond back to you in terms of what is that specific feedback on that assessment. And then you'll notice the placement evaluation could be anything from a written exam to a student parent teacher conference to combination of both. And then after that point, if there needs to be a change in enrollment, then you can go down here and see what we talk about with regards to what we consider as transfers or course changes. And we work through the financial aspects with you based upon whatever the situation is, whether it's a transfer, whether a course change, and there's different stipulations that apply to each of those arrangements. So the admin team is here to support the instructor and the parent through that process, should there be any questions at that time, should there need to be enrollment changes. But for your review, you can certainly read through this section, which is really important. There's even options for auditing. So these details are here. We have information also about how you might want to look at additional pieces like the student learning differences that would actually potentially come up in conversation during the placement evaluation. That's going to be something that you'll want to share with your instructor as well. Any other questions that we want to touch on that have not been answered? Everything in the Q&A looks answered. But I'm going to take another quick look just to make sure. And then I'll pass it to our panelists. Is there any questions or comments? Certainly any closing remarks that you'd like to share with our audience?
I would just like to echo what everyone already said tonight, which is we are a community of learners, a community of friends. And so please, anytime there's a question, concern, whether it's placement, assessment, classes, please reach out to us, support@scholeacademy.com, and we will connect you with whoever you need to speak with. So we're really happy that you were here tonight. And so I just wanted to say that.
Thank you, Presbytera. Well, thank you so much, everyone. I see we have over 70 attendees tonight, and thank you to our panelists. Thank you, Scholé Academy parent Lori Chambers. We're so grateful that you joined us tonight. Parents, if you have any questions for Lori, you can email support and I'd be happy to forward them to her. Certainly we can forward questions on to the instructors, but again, our instructors have their emails posted online, and we are available to support you through preview week and on into enrollment season. Classes are open for enrollment Monday, February 13th for new families, and it remains open all the way through September, and we also have ongoing enrollment. So we're here to work with you. We thank you for exploring Scholé Academy and considering welcoming us into your home and into your homeschool. So thank you and have a good night.